Hello and welcome back to another episode of Nick Tiffany's Movie Reviews, coming at you online and in print format at nicktiffany.com, in audio format wherever you get your podcasts, and even in video on YouTube. Today, we have one of the most transformational, educational, transformative, this movie, Origin, is unlike any other movie experience I feel like I've had. Um, and I'm going to be doing maybe a little bit of education here. So for those watching, if my eyes are kind of looking around, I'm like, I want to make sure I get a lot of the info about this story, certain definitions, themes correct for the audience, because I largely went into this movie knowing nothing about it other than the fact that it was written and directed by Ava DuVernay. If you recognize that name, she is the powerhouse director, producer, writer. She directed Selma, How They See Us, 13. She did the Wrinkle in Time movie for Disney, Queen Sugar. I mean, she is just an incredible force of nature in the filmmaking world, but especially as a Black filmmaker creating films that touch on the experiences that she and her people have faced. Everything she touches comes with so much emotion, so much knowledge, so much care. And this film was really no different. So going into it, I was just like, I know I'm in safe hands with her. Everything she does truly leaves me feeling something, learning something that sticks with you for days. And the subject matter is timely, it's important, it's informative, often maybe a little bit uncomfortable, but as are all things when confronting the horrific realities of our world and our pasts. And so Origin is the story that's adapted. Actually, it's based off of a novel by author Isabel Wilkerson, who's the focus of the film. So it's a fictional kind of telling about how Isabel Wilkerson wrote her novel. And that novel is Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents. And so, like many, I'm going to imagine, I didn't know what the word caste meant. For the first 20 or so minutes of the movie, she's kind of talking about caste. Isabel Wilkerson, she's a journalist, she's an author. The film kind of starts around the time of the Trayvon Martin killing, and sort of the media perception of it, how it sent ripples through the country. And especially in her case, she was asked to kind of write something about it. It's like, you've got a lot of nuance. You've got a way that you could speak on the situation, especially with the recordings from Zimmerman that we have. I think you could really do something sharp with this. She declines, but later on kind of feels like, okay, based on that case there, she almost kind of creates this thesis. There's all of these horrible atrocities that have happened on separate continents and separate countries, all of these different horrific acts of evil that in most cases specifically keep one group of people down. And she wanted to try to find some sort of connective tissue between it all. How are all of these things happening in all these different places? Though they might not be the same methods, there feels like there's a similar core or goal that is being employed, like why these people are trying to be kept down. Someone is gaining something from being on top while someone else is below them. And so caste is the word that she's kind of working with. And caste is the system essentially of dividing society into different hereditary classes. And so part of that, it also kind of goes on to say, is, any class or group of people who inherit exclusive privileges or are perceived as socially distinct. And so, interestingly, the movie focuses especially, being a Black woman, Isabel Wilkerson talks to people within her community. Her cousin is played by Niecy Nash, absolutely wonderful in the movie. They have these conversations about race, about different things that happen, not just to Black people, but looking at how different groups of white people in Germany could turn on someone of their own color, but part of that is we're going to declare some version of us more superior to another. We're going to create distinguishing laws and factors that go into who you can breed with, who you can marry. I'm like, just anything, the type of things you can buy, the things you can wear. And truly, she breaks down so many different examples throughout history while going to a lot of these places in the film, kind of doing, it's very much a journalistic film in a lot of ways, like investigative journalism. I don't want to say like Spotlight or even like For All the President's Men, but she's doing a lot of different interviews with real people, learning stories, where she is, learning about, how does your country view some of these atrocities? Does it honor some of these people, or are you going to be jailed for showing a swastika in Germany? Whereas you look at what happens in the United States and certain things that you're allowed to do because of freedom of speech or all these different protections were given, but you look at how some people reuse and recycle Nazi imagery and KKK imagery and all sorts of stuff, and how a lot of it is pretty unfazing largely to the majority of people. And it's like, I think what the film really does well is just explore. I mean, it goes beyond, there's so many moments in the film where someone's like, oh, well, that's racism or that's racist. And Wilkerson kind of challenges them. She's like, no, it's not necessarily racist. Racism is a really easy way, a real blanket statement to kind of just say, oh, yes, there's a distinct societal difference here. But she wants to go further. She wants to explore these themes deeper and to really understand what it is that divides us as people. Because a large portion of the movie, I think, and what we kind of learn, though, too, is that Isabel, who I had mentioned before, and I apologize, played by Ingenue Ellis-Taylor, in her goings-ons with other people, obviously as a Black woman, she's going to come into contact, I think, with people who have certain thoughts about her that others might not. And in one such instance, she meets someone who's wearing a MAGA hat. I'm sure she has her own thoughts about what he believes, and he has his own thoughts about what he believes. But she's just kind of coming off of a family tragedy, and in a really vulnerable moment, while she's kind of hopeless, looking for help repairing this home, she kind of opens up and talks about how she misses a family member. And the guy's kind of a little confused, but then kind of says something similar, like, oh, I also miss so and so, or I miss my mom, or I miss something like that. And in a couple quiet minutes, they kind of share a few remarks about family, how they grew up. It's seemingly insignificant small stuff, but in that moment they break this sort of barrier. We are two humans who feel the same things. We are people who largely go through so many similar beats as everybody else in the world, even though it feels like we're the only ones who deal with certain things. Obviously, largely, there are also things that, specifically certain groups of people will feel that other groups could never understand. But at the end of the day, there's so many human instincts and things that make us wonderful for what being a human is and what that experience is like. And this film really shines a light on both just the evil and the goodness that can come from people, and how we really do have the ability to create a change in this world. And it's just more understanding that, even though there's this select group of people who live on top, there is this majority who lives in the middle, above the people on the low end and right below the people who are unobtainable and high above. They go to India in the film, and they talk about Dalits, which was something I didn't know it was. And this, for a while, these people were called untouchables, and these are other Indian people who don't look any different, and they're from the same place, the same country. I'm like, they are Indian people through and through. But because of where they were born, where they're from, their social status, they are literally the people who are tasked to do just unthinkable sewage work with no protections whatsoever, People at one point would not let you drink water. You would have to be fed water separately. You could not sit at the same tables like normal people could. You were seen as disgusting, filthy. And it's just, a lot of the stuff in this movie is heart wrenching. And anything discussing slavery and the slave trades, how those people actually ended up here, the conditions they endured to come over here, and what compels man to want to feel superior to another man. There's so many layers in this film that I feel like with any other filmmaker could have been mishandled or would not have come off, I think, as effectively as Duvernay is able to do it. But Origin, it's simply breathtaking. It is a history lesson. It is a lesson in human nature. It is an understanding of the world we live in and actively participate in. But once this veil's kind of lifted, maybe you can choose to be more proactive in how you live your life, how you help people in your life. This is a really, really rare movie, I think, that almost kind of blends reality. At times it feels like you're watching real interviews. It feels so real. It's so visceral. It's in your face, but it needs to be, because nothing's ever going to come easy. There's a great line, I'm sure, in the book that made its way into the film, just kind of discussing, we did not inherit the earth or the house, whatever. We did not inherit what we had. Like, whatever happened to where we're living now, we were no part of that in the past. We were not the people owning slaves or enslaving Jewish people or keeping dullets down in their place. We were never these people in history, obviously. We are alive today. It's a different time, but our time is informed by what has happened in our past. And so, despite not doing anything to create the situation we have now, we have an opportunity to try to change it for ourselves, for the next generations. And that's where I'm sure for some people it's hard. It's selfish. You don't want to do more than you have to. You don't want to take accountability and responsibility for something that you either didn't do or think you don't contribute to. But at the end of the day, that's what it's going to take. If we as a collective and as a world and as people want to be better to each other, for each other, want to make a difference, I think this is such a powerful, powerful movie. It's beautiful. It truly was not expecting. I don't know what I was expecting from this movie. I knew with Ava DuVernay, I was expecting something groundbreaking, more than likely, and she over-delivered. This, God, I don't know how this doesn't end up in my top 10 for the year, but it is likely something I will be pushing and championing for a long time to come, because this is the kind of thing that absolutely deserves to be seen. Origin, it's going to be in a limited release for a while, so just keep your ear to the ground, keep checking your movie screenings on Google. It's worth it. But man, I'm still processing a lot of what I saw in the movie. This is the best I can get those thoughts out right now. But this is one that's really going to sit with you, and I think will really lead to a lot of self-reflection, wonderful, meaningful conversations with people as well, and just a better understanding of this world that we live in. So, oh man, it's heavy. It's heavy stuff, but it's necessary. Thank you again for listening. We're still chugging through Oscar seasons, so stay tuned. And to movie reviews on all social media networks, podcast platforms, and on YouTube for all the latest movie news and reviews. Thank you again for listening, and we will catch you next time.